Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Leo. Would you mind by starting and telling us a bit about your role at Paramount, as well as one show you recently watched that you think we should all check out?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thanks for having me. My role at Paramount, I'm SVP of advertising for our streaming business, and I oversee two things really. One is our programmatic advertising business, which includes a direct sales team and a platform sales team that handles relationships with companies like The Trade Desk. And then the other part of my role is our yield business, so all of our pricing, planning, and packaging, and go-to-market across all of the assets that you just saw in our... We sell long-form content, and we stay true to form with a nice long sizzle reel.
Loved it. All right, and what one TV show would you recommend we check out?
Oh yeah, so I'll give you the Paramount answer, which is the Offer, which is about the making of The Godfather.
Okay.
Just a great story with like Robert Evans, Al Ruddy, the story of the making of The Godfather.
Awesome.
And then a show I've recently been watching is Shrinking on Apple TV, which is very good.
And I thought 1923 was the obvious answer, because that is what I'm currently in the middle of binging. So, okay, awesome.
Yeah, nice. Glad you're a fan.
So Tim mentioned that the Upfront started in 1962, the same year that the cassette tape came out. And the crazy thing is there are people in this audience who have never even listened to a cassette tape. So clearly consumer behavior and technology has evolved. As you think about going into the Upfronts, how has that evolved for you coming from Paramount?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think you can kind of read that two ways. Clearly 60 years is a long time. And but I think the way I think of that is its staying power. I think the Upfront wouldn't be around if it didn't consistently deliver value for both sides of the equation, right? The buyers and the sellers. It's certainly changed a lot since 1962. There's more networks, more options to buy, different ways to buy. I think for us, as long as, in the yield part of my job, we see that as long as there is a market characterized by scarcity, there's going to be a need for futures and for investment. And for a price elastic customer, they're going to come in and want to be able to lock up their media in advance. But I think the thing that's been exciting has been, as we've been challenged by our partners to introduce more flexibility and more agility into these deals, it's come with the way to invest so that we can bring programmatic into the mix, for instance. So that introduces some technology conversations, but also evolving the rules of the transaction. So, how do we allow for a framework that the dollars are still registered and planned in advance, but there's decisioning included inside of that? And I think we've certainly leaned into that in a big way. We're a few years into that adventure, I would say, and I think we keep getting better and smarter, and our partners, a lot of whom are in the room here today, are challenging us to do that.
Got it. And so can you help us unpack that a little bit? So you mentioned that there's the inclusion of decisioning and the shift towards programmatic. What type of technology are you using, or how are you leveraging data to help make those smarter decisions, and how has that changed for your buyers?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think our clients come to us with, I think we hear a lot, they want to bring large data sets to match against an identity spine and then deliver matched impressions inside of a premium environment. And they want to have cross-platform and cross-publisher frequency management. And I think that's something that I think everyone in this room who sells streaming would agree that it's table stakes these days to have a large audience graph, to have facility with programmatic and reserved sales, and they compete in a unified yield, so you don't favor reserved over programmatic, you treat them as the best impression wins. And then lastly, to have an interoperable identity framework so that you can match data against an identifier and serve that audience. And so I think I think that's become table stakes, and if you don't have that, the money will, life finds a way. We'll find a way around you to someone who does have that. And so I think we like the hand we have. We've stood up a pretty big technology architecture at Paramount over the last few years to be able to support all those things.
Got it. And you mentioned needing to have that large footprint and identity being at the centerfold of all of that. My understanding is that you guys have combined a couple different portfolios together to create EyeQ. Would you mind sharing with us what EyeQ is and what that decision path looked like to decide to pull that together under the umbrella?
Sure. So EyeQ is the umbrella under which we go to market as Paramount Advertising. So, but it's more than that. It's actually a tangible product that you can buy. And when you purchase EyeQ programmatically, that is what shows up in the bid stream. That is what is on your rate card. It is the way we package and go to market with everything we have. All the content that you just saw in that reel. And I think part of it is part of the decision was we came together as Viacom and CBS in 2019. We had a bunch of consumer access points for streaming, right? We had CBS Interactive, CBS All Access, Viacom, and Pluto TV. And then with the rebrand of CBS All Access to Paramount Plus, I think the light bulb for us was like, we have a through line here that's common across all these things. And it's premium IP delivered and mostly watched in the living room on TV glass. And it's anchored on Paramount IP, either content we produce or that we curate and package into channels. And so I think the decision for us was to say we can, in a complex world, like we all know how complicated the CTV world is, right? The average household has 22 connected devices and 7 to 10 app subscriptions and a pile of remotes and dongles as evidence in my living room. But I think we realized we can aggregate a bunch of watch time and make it simple for partners to buy. And it's across a really diverse set of endpoints. So we then, kind of the principles of this were it needed to be simple. So you can come in, we don't want to sell you 3 different deals, one on CBS, one on Viacom. It's one deal, and it operates across all of that. It has to be transparent. So we give program level guidance. So you know which programs you're going to show up in before the buy. And then after the buy, we tell you where you did deliver by program. It has to be unified, so it sits on one ad infrastructure. Same ad server. We built some technology in-house to help, I think, resolve all this RTB demand into our ad server. We have a product called Conduit that we built in-house to do that. It needs to be convergent, I think, and lean towards convergence. I think as we know the viewing changes between TV and digital, that these products are built to be natural extensions of the way television is bought and sold. So all of the Prime content, for instance, is bundled as EyeQ Prime. And if you're a primetime buyer in linear, it's a natural extension of that deal. And we enforce a TV quality ad spec as well. And then lastly, it's optimized. And I think we optimize these buys for cross-publisher frequency. So we support partners like the Trade Desk to come in and help manage EyeQ in the context of a broader cross-publisher buy, but then it's also cross-platform optimized. And I think we have some exciting tech that we've built in-house to help optimize linear exposure vis-a-vis the streaming to make sure we're not hitting the same people when they show up across platform as well.
Yep, so that's really interesting. And I think it goes to the next question I had around, as brands are switching over from linear and as you're pulling together multiple assets to create these buys, the natural question is, how can I tell if it's working? And I feel like we as an industry have seen kind of this evolution or this struggle with what the right currency is, whether it's a Nielsen, whether it's an iSpot, whether it's a video amp, whether it's an in-house solution. How do you think about measuring performance and efficacy to demonstrate the value that you're bringing to the table with these living room-oriented long content shows?
Right. It's certainly a changing and complex world right now. I think for the digital side of our business, we think about currency as impressions delivered against some target audience, and those identifiers, I think, have become a key piece of what currency is going to become. So it's impressions delivered against a matched audience. I think right now we're in a phase where we're also looking cross-platform, and part of our own Paramount identity framework is built to support cross-platform reach and frequency from partners like Video Amp and iSpot. So that's sort of a supplemental read on the buy. And I think this is going to come in phases, but right now we manage this thing as delivered impressions against an identifier with some supplemental cross-platform reach and frequency analysis that helps you understand kind of where your buy delivered.
Yep, that makes sense. And as you're thinking about pulling these assets together, now we're so fluid in talking about CTV and the value it brings, but it was a really big deal last summer when streaming surpassed linear. Do you think that trend is going to continue? And if so, how are you thinking about orienting your business for the future to capitalize on that momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot's been said about the change in the way people watch TV. I think TV is super valuable and it's super efficient and it's super effective, and I think it's well understood by marketers. But I think it's no secret that that effectiveness plateaus a little bit sooner than it did in the past. And I think that's where we've organized for a convergent go-to-market so that our clients can come in and purchase us cross-platform and really understand. And I think we've had to lean into that as both the way we're organized as a sales team, the way our products are structured, and the way that we handle reach and frequency across these two platforms.
Got it. And so if you've obviously seen this evolve and you've been really thoughtful in how you've structured your business to capitalize on that. If you were giving advice to a new buyer that's coming to the upfronts for the first time, what would you recommend to them or their agency for how they should think about their strategy?
Yeah, sure. So, I think we've seen partners have success kind of deploying a mix of different strategies. And I think, as I said at the top, there's certainly a lot of value in laying down a predictable base of spend. And I think with that, you get that predictable reach and some value, and your dollars go to work to deliver value back to your client. I think then also challenging your media partners to evolve with you to, if you need flexibility, if you need to bring data and identity into the equation, to challenge your media partners to do that and to have kind of a hybrid structure. But I think at the end of the day, you do sort of, the last thing I'd say is, you do kind of have to respect the game of the upfront. It's about bringing your future investment to the table and trying to trade value on that for predictability. So I think as long as the spirit of the upfront stays intact, we're happy to kind of evolve this thing and continue to challenge ourselves to introduce new ways to buy.
That makes sense. Although what I'm hearing is the value of the upfront is understanding that you're going to have this certain level of performance, and so applying identity in different forms or applying data to deliver that performance is something that now we've got even more tools and technology available at our fingertips to be able to have even smarter decisions for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's become a big part of our upfront story is as I said, we need to talk about the audience graph, our identity capabilities. Are we facile with programmatic? Can we figure out how to thread these things together to work and be additive to each other? Yeah,
makes sense. All right, so I wanted to end with a favor, okay? So I left my crystal ball on the plane when I was flying here from Denver. So I was hoping we could borrow yours for this question, okay?
Okay.
So if we were on here a year from now in 2024 and we looked back over this year of 2023, I know the tenses are getting weird, what do you think we would look back and say, here were my biggest 2 or 3 learnings or the biggest things that we did if we were to look back over this upcoming year? Did you follow that one?
Yes,
okay.
I think I do. So
everybody else looks very confused.
This is predictions?
So yeah, what are your predictions for the year? So if we were here a year from now, when you say it that way, it sounds so much less interesting. I mean, I need a crystal ball. I was going to have a whole costume, but yeah. Okay, so what would your predictions be for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think more programmatic direct. I think we've seen that continue to be a really nice marriage of the good things about the traditional way things are bought and sold and the good things about data and identity and optimization. So I think more of that and kind of threading that in bigger ways into the upfront is going to continue. And in terms of the scatter market, I think both of those things are continuing to be a huge part of the business. I think we're going to see a year from now that's going to be a big growth driver for the way when we look at our investment. And I think continued convergence. I think we're going to have to be adaptable as eyeballs change. The one thing we know, a lot of things change, but the one thing we know is that consumers find a way to watch content the way they want to watch content. And I think as Tim said, to sort of paraphrase what he said, it's like what can be automated will. And I think both of those things kind of lead us to that truth that people are going to watch TV how they want to watch it, and advertising what can be automated is going to be automated, and we have to figure out how to operate as buyers and sellers and still run our business.
Yep, makes sense. Sounds like it's going to be a great year.
Yeah,
so thank you so much, Lee O'Connor, everybody. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome.